of the above. It's Camille, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make this really cool garland. So step 1 is taking fairy lights and your string. I just used masking tape and I micro adjusted it on my wall until I was happy with what I had. It took a really long time, but it basically just took a lot of patience and trying to figure out the exact configuration of what I wanted to put on the wall. I bought the fairy lights on Amazon and I already had the string. Both are linked in the description if you want to check them out. Step 2 is marking exactly where you want to put each hook. Then take your masking tape and fold it over to keep your spot. I got downstairs to start working and the light bulb was completely out, so I had to screw that in first. This is me being totally and completely shocked to find the brightness of the light bulb.
It's a really bright light.
Back to the project. I got these tassels on Amazon. They're linked in the description. I counted them up and I had 12 of the black and pink and 10 of the gray. Step 3 is to figure out the distance between each tassel. Do this by dividing how many inches of string you have by how many tassels you have. This will tell you how much should be in between each spot. As you can see, I did this all by hand, obviously. So once I did this, I figured out that I needed about 1 tassel per every 5.8 inches of string, which I rounded to about 6. Step 4. I kind of backpedaled a little bit, but I took off all these pieces of scotch tape and separated the fairy lights from the string. The fairy lights will be reattached at the end. As I took off the masking tape on each hook spot, I put washi tape on, different colors for each section. This way, I could make sure that both of them matched up in the same spots. The next step is to lay out all the tassels, making sure you put the amount that you calculated in between each tassel. Next, take a Sharpie and mark exactly where you're putting each tassel. This is very important. Do not forget this step. This will tell you where to tie each tassel, even if things get messed up. On to step 7. Now that you have your humongous string laid out with all your tassels and you're marking out where you're putting them, you're going to start tying them. Feel free to take the tassels off the string since you already have it marked. Just remember to put them in the right pattern. Using some of the same string you're using for the normal garland, you're going to take that and tie it on the black dot which you marked earlier. I just did a square knot a bunch of times to make it extra secure, but I'm going to use glue later just to make it extra secure. This step probably took the longest, but it was definitely worth it. If you don't do this step and you just put them on normal without tying them, they'll slide toward the middle once you have it drooping. Step 8 is going back and cutting off all the excess from your knots. You could probably do this in combination with step 7, but I did this just because. You're also going to take some crazy glue and glue the knots to make sure they don't slide. This isn't completely necessary, but I wanted to make sure mine were extra secure. I set up this little drawing station with cardstock to make sure I didn't get the glue on anything. Step 8 is ironing/steaming out your string. Honestly, I probably should have done this before I tied anything on. That way it would have been a lot easier. But I didn't, so here we are. Story of my life. No One Direction pun intended. Step 9 is laying out your lights in your garland side by side, making sure your little washi tapes are lined up. Grab some little clothespins. I found these at Dollar Tree. Use these to attach them together. Again, make sure your washi tapes are lined up. They're probably not perfect because the fairy lights probably weren't stretched out all the way when you measured it, but just generally in the same space. Then grab your clothespins, little itty bitty ones, and attach them together, like this. Step 10. I took the garland back to my room and hung it back up with masking tape to make sure it looked the way it did before. Step 11. Putting the command hooks on. Mine called for rubbing alcohol on the spot before you applied it, so I did that. I put it on, held it for 30 seconds. Whatever your instructions say. Step 12. I hung it up. As you can see, I pinched it around the edges to make sure it stayed on. Make sure your washi tape is going on in a similar place where the command hook is, but also make sure to take that washi tape off once you've hung it up. On the end, I wrapped the wire around on the fairy lights a couple of times to make sure it stayed nice and secure on there. I used the clothespins to put on some Polaroids of me and my friends. This is completely optional, but I thought it just added a little personality to it, spruced it up. Here's the final product. I love how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching, and watch out for a new bullet journal video. See you soon. Bye!